Today is day 161 of Blender. It is also Monday, July 18th, 2022. And I'm going to do another text animation on Blender. So I'm going to go to the top, scroll down, Geometry Nodes, hide the spreadsheet, click on New Geometry Node System. Disconnect the input from the output, and then I'll just write Shift A and then go string to curves, get that node, and what that's going to do is going to basically convert my text into curves. And if I want to determine what my text or my string is going to be, I'm going to just connect it to the input, and then over here modifier properties, I'm just going to do something like thunder, and then I guess my other word is going to be thunderbolt later on. So in order to see it, I just have to put it in my geometry for the output, and then I'll just do one thing. I'll do Shift A and I'll get a transform, and then for this one I'll just rotate it 90 degrees for the X, which says basically like rotate 90 degrees along the X axis, which in this case is the red axis. I could have just done 90 over here, but after doing this for a couple of days, I realized I have to actually do it each time I make a copy, so if I just do it here, it saves me time. Alright, and then I'll do Shift A and fill the curve and put that in there. That's going to fill the curves. If I go to wireframe mode, I notice that the edges and the vertices are very messy, and so to fix that, I just change the fill type to n-gons, and that fixes that. Back in solid view, I want to give the letter some thickness, so I'll do Shift A and get an extrude mesh node and put that in there, and I'll go back to modifier properties over here, and I'll connect the actual value to the input, and I can change it over here, so I'll do 0.1. But if I go in the back, I notice that the fill is not applied in the back, right, of the string, and so I'll just do Shift A and get a join geometry node and put that right here, and that will join both the extrusion mesh and the fill effect, and now it's filled both in the front and in the back. Okay, and then actually not the last thing, but one thing, I'm going to go to the folder here and string to curves and change the font to Arial Black, and maybe the character spacing to 1.15. And then the other thing is I'll do Shift A and get a realize instance curve and put that right here. And what that does, it makes my, I guess my object, which in this case is thunder, realize that it has instances of itself, or realize that it has copies of itself, so that those copies may be changed without the original changing, or vice versa. So on the outliner, I'm just going to call it thunder and put that in there. And then I'll just do Shift D and then G to grab, and then Y to grab along the Y axis, which in this case is the green one, and then I'll change it to something like bolt. So it's going to be a text animation or transition from thunder to bolt. Alright, and then what I'll do is I'll just name it bolt on the outliner, and then I'll hide it both in the viewport and in render view, so I won't see it in my render. And then I'll go to layout and I'll do Shift A and add a random object, it doesn't even matter. I'll just add a cube and call this animation in the outliner, click on new geometry nodes for a new geometry node system, and then I'll just disconnect the input from the output, move this kind of like all the way over here, and then in my outliner I'll just drag thunder, and I'll drag bolt into my geometry node system, and what these are, it's basically object information nodes that gives me the basic information about the object that I selected. So it gives me the geometry itself of thunder, the location, rotation, scale of thunder, and etc. So if I were to connect the geometry to the geometry in the output, then I'll be able to see it right in the layout. But yeah, so basically these are instances or copies of the original. So this specific one is an instance or a copy of thunder, when this over here is the original thunder. And this node allows me to make changes to the thunder over here in the animation without kind of changing the original or vice versa. Okay, anyway, at this point I do Shift A and get a points distribute node, and this is a preset by Bradley Animations, and I always link his video every time I use anything from it. And the video, I always link it in one of these, right? And the first link in his video in the description box is the link to download the preset. And then Once you download the preset, well, I did edit preferences and I went into add-ons and I went to install, and I had mine in desktop and it looked like this, right? This is it, install add-on. And then I search up the add-on and I just make sure it's on. And then I also make sure that node presets are on as well, so that I could actually use the presets. And then I also make sure that I restart my Blender. So I would save my Blender file and then restart it so that the add-on can be used. And basically what this does, it just takes mesh or geometry and it outputs it as points, or distributes the mesh in points. So I'll use Thunder as an example. So Thunder takes it in as a mesh and it will distribute it in points into the output. And so basically this is Thunder in points, but only in 15. So in order to change that, I would actually select the amount and connect it to the input node, and I can change it over here to 3000, and then I'll be able to see Thunder, right, its geometry distributed through or via or by, I don't even know, 3000 points. But yeah, that's that. And then I'll just do Shift D to make a copy of the G points distribute and make sure this is connected here, and the amount is also connected to the amount over here. Alright, so this is basically the outline. So I like to think of it as kind of 5 parts. So this is the beginning, right, the left, and then I have the end, and then I have 3 parts in the middle, 1 at the top, 1 in the middle, and 1 at the bottom. So that's how I kind of think of it in terms of organization. And I learned this again from Bradley Animations. I always like to cite my sources because I learned it from him, from his tutorial that I've been following for the past, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And yeah, I have the video linked in one of those thingies. Okay, so I'll start with the bottom. So I'll start with set position, not the bottom, I'll start with the end, which goes over here. And then after that is Shift A points to volume, Shift A volume to mesh, and it kind of, what these specific ones do, it's kind of gives it substance, or makes it at least more smoother. Then there's also one more thing. Let me just save it before I do this. What's today's date? 7/18/22. Blender, blends, save Blender file. I add a modifier, a remesh, change that to 0.05, and then I go back over here to geometry nodes, change this to 0.0, I don't know, 4. And I kind of play around with these values until it looks the way I want it to and defined. So I'll go to smooth shading, select that, probably do something like 30,000. I always have to like increase the amount so it's smoother, and then do 0.02, voxel amount 200, something like that, 300, something like that, and then I need it to be more defined, so 0.02. So the voxel size really allows it to be more defined, so 0.01. All these values kind of just play together, see? Yeah, to make that final output. I just play around with the values until I see what I want. And then to make it smoother, I just increase the amount of actual points, and then it just becomes slightly smoother, but yeah. Alright, so for voxel amount, I did 300, radius 0.02. I changed nothing here. I just changed the voxel size to 0.01, and I select on smooth shading, so it's smooth. And yeah, okay, and that's the end part. So I have the beginning part and the end part done. Now it's time for the slightly complicated part. So for this one, I have to do Shift A and do a transfer attribute node, and that would go down here. I also have to get a G mix XYZ vector, which is another preset from Bradley Animations. So the position would actually go into vector A over here, and then this would be for the transfer attribute. I would have to change it to vector because I'm transferring a vector by its index. So the points goes into the source, which was previously named target, and the position goes into attribute, and then this would be, for now, vector B. And then this vector, I believe, would go into the position over here. And now if I just change the factor, it'll transition from Thunder to Bolt, which is pretty cool. Maybe I should add like lightning anyway, whatever. So this is actually middle stuff over here. This is bottom stuff. So at the top, I believe there's 3. At the bottom, there's 5. And in the middle, there's also 5. That's how kind of like I remember it. I also know that there is a, I'll do that later. So over here, there's a transfer attribute. There's also a vector math node where I add 2 vectors, and there's also shift A combine XYZ node over here, and there's also a directional fall off, which is another preset. So this would actually go here, and this would go in as the custom vector, and then it would go through, the fall off would be the Z, and then this would actually be vector B, while this would be vector A, and then that would end up being vector B instead. Okay. And what this does is it kind of controls basically the animation, like the liquid, I guess, because when you change it, that happens, right? Oops, nope, that's not what I wanted. 0.5. Okay, and it controls basically that the liquid, right? And so I need to actually have an object that controls that, so that it would actually go into my factor and control the factor. So I'll just go layout, shift A, and go to empty, add a sphere, and then in object data properties, change it to arrows, and then I just do G to grab and X to grab along the x-axis, which in this case is the red one. And then I just go back here and I select the object and the G directional fall off and make that the empty. And that's basically the controller part. So if I move this through it, does its thing. It controls the animation instead of me having to change the factor over here. All right. All right, and then let's see. So, whoops. Okay, let me put that over here. And then at the top over here, there's also a combine XYZ node, and there's also a whoops, why did I do that? Shift A. There's also a vector math node for add, which goes into here, and there's also another G directional fall off, so I'll just select this one and then shift D. And then this one is just connected simply to this, and then this is connected simply to this, and then the points where the position goes into this, and then this goes into vector A instead. So that happens there. And I believe that I have shift A, a map range over here, and shift A float curve, but that's actually at the top in the middle. Over here, I'll leave that there for now. So I believe the map range goes here, but I have to actually reference back to my notes, so I'll just go here. By notes, I mean a literal whole other Blender file. That's yesterday's date. Let's see. Geometry nodes. Wrong one. Okay. So the map range just go in here. Alright, so the fall off is the value for the map range, so it maps, and then it's 0, 1, 1, 0, so it's a direction, and then goes into Z. So the map range goes into here, and it's actually 0, 1, 1, and then 0. Alright, so that's that, and then this one goes into Z, so that's good there. Alright, I just have to make sure that the value for the other one is fine. Okay, that's fine too. Okay, that's good. And then at the top, let me just make sure this is fine. Yes, it's fine. And then XYZ, that's fine. And then add is also fine, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is good. And then the factor, is controlled by this one in the middle. So I'll just take this one, Shift D, put that over here. That should control the factor, right? So that should be good. And then there's also a float curve that has something to do here. So the float curve is actually, the fall off is connected to the value of the float curve, which is connected to the scale. So the float curve kind of goes in here, select that point, so it's like an upside down parabola. And then the fall off is the value of the float curve. And then the float curve is connected to a scale node, which is a vector math node. And change that to scale. And then that would be connected to the scale, while if I do Shift A and get a 3D noise, which is also another preset, change, well, I'll do that in a second. Let me check back. So the scale, okay, the vector would be the 3D noise, and then that would be the offset. So the vector would be the color for the 3D noise, so that would go in here, this would go here, and then the scale would be the actual offset, where is it, of the set position. So I should probably move this over here. Alright, and then if I just move this to kind of be in the middle, I'll be able to see, why did it go so far? I'll be able to see what happens when I kind of change the frequency and stuff of the 3D noise. So if I change the frequency to be 0.2, and then my favorite part is a scale. I change it to be something larger, the liquid becomes also larger. But yeah, that's that. And if I do 20, it becomes more random and more like farther away and liquidy. Alright, and that's it. Alright, let me just count how many nodes I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, perfect, I'm done. Alright, so everything's good, and then at this point, I'll just go to modifier properties, create a new one, nodes, and then click on new, and then I'll just do Shift A and get a set material node so I can set the material. And then I think I just picked out colors. So I'll do this one. Oh no, it's this one I want. Okay. But I actually have to go to material properties and change the base color there if this thing doesn't crash. Let me just do Control S real quick. Okay, click on new base color, and then I would go to hex because that's what I copied from that website, the hex color. And then if I go into layout, I'll be able to see it if I go into material preview, the color change. Oh, I didn't even select it, did I? So back to geometry node and select color, and then I'll be able to see it if I go back to layout. Okay, like that, beautiful. All right, and then I'll just kind of bring this back to the beginning. And then I'll do Shift A, add a plane, and I will just, let me think. Should I do a backdrop or should I? I don't know. I'll just keep doing what I've been doing. Okay, so new, and then I'll change it to this color. And then I'll just go to object properties and change the rotation to be 90 degrees on the X, and then S to scale. And then I will just do G to grab, and then X to grab along the X axis, and then G, Y to move it a little bit back along the Y axis. And then I'll probably do S again, and then X to scale along the X axis, which in this case is the red one, and I know by looking at the little symbols over here. Alright, and then now for the animation. So I'll just click on this, right, and then I'll open up my timeline, and I'll press N to open up my end panel, which I'll be able to see the transform stuff information. I don't know what to call it. I never know what to call this. Item panel, end panel, transform panel, I don't know. Anyway, I basically take empty, and I move it right before it starts affecting the T. So kind of about right here, right there. And then I'll just say I want basically a video of 80 frames. So at the first frame, I want it to obviously start normally without it affecting anything. And so that specific location is negative 1.4366 meters in the x-axis. And so I'm going to hover over that location in the end panel and press I to insert that keyframe, location keyframe, and that's going to appear as a little diamond keyframe in my timeline. And then if I go to keyframe 80, going to keyframe 80, I will just do G to grab the empty and then X and then move it right after it's affecting the letter, well, at least the last letter. Kind of about here, and then I'll hover over that position and press I to insert that location keyframe. And that's it for the animation. So now if I go to 1 and I hit play, it's going to just, you know, do the animation. I'm just going to press N to get out of that. It's going to go slow in the viewport, but in the render it's actually really fast. See? Okay. Anyway, I'm going to press escape. And then there is one problem though. When it goes to the end, it's like I don't like it because the bolt is not really in the middle, and I prefer it if it were to move in the middle. So maybe I'll do another, I don't know. Should I not? I just want it to move in the middle. So maybe I'll do that. I'll start it. Well, when does it appear? It starts appearing here. So I kind of want it to, well, at least by keyframe 80, I need it to be in the center. So I guess I'll do GX and move it to be in the center, and then hover over that position, press I, and then maybe move this one and to be a little bit more like that. Let's see, it depends. All right, and then I'll go here, and then I'll go to rendered preview, hide the timeline, and then the sun, right, the light, let me press N to hide that. I'll go here to object data properties, change it to sun, strength to 3, just select shadow, and then I'll do GY, and then I'll press R to rotate, so it should look like that. And then I will hover over the button under the escape key and press on hover. Did I just say that? Let me rephrase. I will click on the button under the escape key and then hover over front. That makes much more sense. And then I'll do Control-Alt-Numpad 0 to basically align my camera to the view that I want, and if that doesn't work, it's because you probably don't have a numpad, so you go to Edit, Preferences, Input, and then click on Emulate Numpad. And if that still doesn't work, it's probably because you don't have a camera, so you might want to do Shift A and add a camera, which is over here. Alright, let me see. So, to get out of this view, middle mouse button, and then to go back into the view, you press on 0, right? So, 0. Maybe I just want this to be a little bit, let me go to keyframe 40, which is halfway through, and see what that looks like. Just kind of want to get it right. Let me just look at keyframe 80 then. I mean, it's not that bad. Oh, actually, it is really bad. This has to be moved. The timeline has to be changed. This location keyframe. I'll just delete it. Whoops. How do I delete it? Delete, not keyframes, just this one. Okay. And then I'll just do GX, bring it all the way over here. You're kidding me. 80 and then GX, bring it right there until it stops affecting. And then N, press that I. Okay. I just don't like that it's not in the middle. It irritates me. Alright, you know what? It's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, it really does, because like, look at it. It's literally left aligned left. How do you even say it? I don't like it. Whatever. Alright, so yep, that's pretty much it. So now I'm just going to go to output properties. Where is it? Right here. Select a folder for my images to go onto. I actually always create a folder. So today's 7/18/2022, and it is Thunderbolt. Accept, and then file format PNG, Control S, and then render animation. Render the 80 frames in that folder, and then later I'll just go and put them all together to make a video. Now I have to go back to my folder, desktop, Blender, animations, and then what's today? Thunderbolt. Yeah, it's not even, oh wow, it's not even in the center. Thunder's not even in the center. This is disappointing. I need to get better at positioning text objects. Pause when I'm, well, I guess when this thing is done. Alright, and now all of the 80 frames are in this folder, so I'm just going to X out of here, X out of there, go to the top, scroll down, video editing, after clicking the plus sign, move this all the way to the beginning, and then add, go back. Then I go, okay, first of all, it's 0. Can we go to 0? Thank you. Alright, add image sequence, and then I go to that folder where I have those animations, if I could ever find it. Then select the first one, scroll down, shift, select the last one, add image strip, and then I go to output properties at the top right over here, select the folder for it to go into. I'll just create one and call it video. Selected, accept, file format FFmpeg video, encoding, container mpeg4, output quality high quality, Control S, and then go to the top, scroll up, render animation. It's going to render the video in that folder in a few moments. Let me just open up the folder. Wrong thing. Thunderbolt video, and then I'll just have to wait because it's still rendering. And that's the final result. Why do I feel like it's backwards? Like it's going all to the left. Interesting. I just wish that I had it in the center. But yeah, that's it for today.